Hello, everyone, and live from J4K. My name is Rory Preddy, and I'm in Johannesburg right now. We do have a few little power failures, but we're not going to let that get in the way of all of the incredible technologies I'm going to show you today. So I'm a developer advocate for Microsoft, and developer advocates meet developers where they are, and they really evangelize Microsoft technologies. And today I've got an incredible session to show you about Azure Container Apps, and we're going to do some live demos, and we're also going to show you some new features on how to get started. So if you want to follow me on @RoryPreddy, and let's get started. So first of all, let's not beat around the bush. The irony is not lost on me. I'm speaking about container apps, and this is a Kubernetes conference. But Kubernetes is evolving. It is kind of a meme-based economy when you look at Kubernetes. Would they love it or hate it? YAML is there. You have a lot of documentation. There's safety first. And it's a little bit difficult. You still need to manage Kubernetes. And so what Microsoft did is that they actually have Azure Container Apps on top of Kubernetes. You get all of the power of managed Kubernetes, but you don't have to worry about the development lifecycle. So the theme of that I'm going to show you today is really the development lifecycle and some of the tools and technologies that really equate to an incredible experience. So people say to me, Rory, but there are a lot of other serverless options and container options out there. Where does container apps actually sit in? So I drew this. There's my little man, and using PowerPoint animations, you'll see there he actually goes on a little bit of a journey. He says he doesn't want to build new. He doesn't want specialized tooling, microservice architecture, or event-driven or short-lived processes. Oh, there we go. He actually went way too quick there. But basically, he doesn't want Azure Container Instances, Azure Server Fabric. He doesn't need Kubernetes, access to the Kubernetes API. All he really needs, that little man there, is containers, and he needs to run his apps on it. So this is a great opportunity for you to go into the aka.ms app decision tree and see how Azure Container Apps fits into, and it's an incredibly rich ecosystem out there that you can actually go in and find out where on Azure your services need to be hosted. So what can you build with Azure Container Apps? So first of all, you can build microservices, event-driven processing, web applications, public API endpoints, and background processing. My favorite is public API endpoints, because if you ever try to do that with Kubernetes to do traffic shaping, it's very difficult. You have to do taints and tolerances and revision management around that, though. But it really lends itself to quick development of systems that usually run on Kubernetes that are difficult to manage the control plane. Now, some of the core concepts: you have an environment, and the environment is you can have an optional custom virtual network on it here, and then your container apps sit inside your environment. Inside your environment, then you have your microservices, your apps then. So we say apps, but they really are microservices. And each one of those container apps can have multiple revisions. So you can see there revision 1, and we'll get to that now. And each revision, their revision 1, can have containers. So we use the terminology very synonymously with Kubernetes, because it really is Kubernetes. So in your environment, you have containers or your microservices, you have revisions, and those revisions then run a pod, and then the pod then run multiple different containers. So here we are, the revisions, and the revisions are really a snapshot. So once you cut a revision, it's a snapshot of your application, and you can have multiple revisions, and you can kind of go do canary deployment and blue-green deployment there. You can also, with your revisions, you can push and pull with GitHub. So you can cut a revision, and I'm going to show you in the demo a little bit later, and then you can push them through and push it to your container apps. So you can have active revisions there and inactive revisions. You can also deactivate them. Now, ingress traffic, at traffic splitting, and this is what I really like about it, because I've done a lot of live demos showing staging environments and production environments. So you can have 80% there, and you can do demos for 20% or select clients there to specific customers. API management, all you have to do really is go into container app there, and it'll import your container, your API management, and you can go in and deploy your Swagger files. VNets, it's pretty simple, and it's pretty new also. You can go into that URL there, and then VNets allow you to actually have isolated control over your container app. So why am I talking to this? Because I'm not an American, but I also hear all of the time cancel culture. Now, cancel culture to me means what happened to Eureka. Now, Eureka was Spring Cloud, Netflix OSS, and it was a great way to create your microservices and enable people to go. And you can see this person is, why was Eureka discontinued? And this was in 2018. And we understood that Eureka was so pivotal to that we went in, and with the help of open source communities, we created Dapper. Now, Dapper pairs very nicely with container apps to allow you to create a distributed application runtime. I want to show you a nice workshop you can get started on with that. And it provides event-driven runtimes for distributed application across any cloud or edge service there. You can go into, for more information there, dapper.io. And Dapper really simplifies cloud-native application development. And it enables you to create building blocks, and we're going to go through some of those building blocks now: consistent, portable, open APIs, pluggable components, any language or framework. I'm a Java developer, so I use Java for it, but you can use .NET, Python, Go, and then also across any cloud. Now, you take your building blocks and you can call them with HTTP or gRPC, and then you go in and you can choose which building block you want to get to help your microservice. You can use service-to-service invocation, you can use state management, publish and subscribe, binding, so input and output, so that's great for databases and queues, actors, observability, secrets, configuration, and distributed lock. Now, if you remember the Netflix OSS stack, Eureka, this is very similar to that, and it enables you to really go into that microservice mind frame to go in and create your applications. And there are, and this is a bit old even, there are 100 components out there between state stores, pub/sub brokers, bindings and triggers, secret stores, observability, configuration, and distributed lock. You can go access more of them in github.com Dapper components-contrib. So what does this look like then? So now I've got my container apps then, I've got my environment, and I've got my container app 1, and I've got my container app 2. Now, if I want my container app 2 to call container app 1, or vice versa. So then I can post it with a URL. I can do service-to-service invocation. So over here, if I wanted to post to container app 2, then the Dapper sidecar. So sidecar is a little container that runs in your container app and basically starts up, and it runs all of the little services, auxiliary services that help you run your container app though. So in this case here, we've got service-to-service invocation. Container app 1 wants to talk to container app 2, and it knows where to talk to it because it actually has a URL that can go in it, and even has a version that can speak to it. If I wanted to do state management, in this case, Firebase or Redis Cache or Azure Cosmos DB, then I can actually just go post, and I've got my Dapper sidecar, and it knows, because it's registered with that state, where I can do the state store, and then I've got state. If I want to do observability, I can also do service-to-service call, and that'll be picked up by OpenTelemetry and then plugged into my monitor of choice, in my case, Azure Application Monitor. PubSub, and I've got a nice little demo that I'm going to show you a little bit today about traffic management. You can do PubSub there, and then you can actually go in there and, in this case, use PubSub with Service Bus, register your apps there, publisher app and subscriber app there, and then the Azure Service Bus will just plug into it, and then you can do the sidecar basically into your container apps there. It's pretty simple and pretty robust. So today I'm going to show you a little bit of a demo that I took the Azure Spring Pet Clinic, and then I created an inner loop, which is a nice way to say I'm developing on code spaces. I'm going to push it to GitHub Actions. I'm then going to use the GitHub Actions to build a Docker file. I'm going to use Playwright to go in and test integration tests and GitHub Actions to actually deploy it to either a staging or production environment, and CodeQL to go in and test that all the code doesn't have any vulnerabilities. And then policies for compliance and governance, and monitoring and logging with Azure Monitor. And then at the same time, feedback loop. So let's start with that demo there. And you'll notice in this demo, I'm never going to leave the browser. So I've got my little Codespaces set up here. And this is a basic Codespaces. I haven't added anything to the dev container or the actual Docker file. And you'll see here, I've got my owner controller here. This is the standard pet clinic, and I've just forked it off there. And I can run this here locally. So if I go into here and I run here locally, I've got a little debug point there. And I can run this locally, and it's going to debug on the owner controller here. And this is running in the pet clinic application. I think it's about 8 CPUs. No, 4 CPUs and 8 gigs of RAM. Now where's my port there? There we go. Open in port 8080 is available. It's going to open up in my browser now. And it's going to connect to the forward port. And there's my owners here. So I can go find the owners here. And then I can go Franklin for George Franklin. And I can go find owner. Now it's stopped on Codespaces. And what I want to show you about this is how easy it is for container apps to really fit into this developer flow. So now I've got here, and I can see that the owner get last name is being displayed, and I can watch the name there. So now I've got the first part of my inner loop, and I can also step over here, and this is in my browser, and I can continue there, and I can get the actual result back from that when it comes. I closed it there, but let's go in there again. Now, the next thing I want to do, I want to start that again. Let's go and start that again. But I don't want to actually debug. I actually want to do a hot code replace. And I want to show everyone this because this is the coolest. The icon kind of is missing there though. But I want to go and find owners here. I want to find owners. Now, when I go into here, I can see here owner Franklin, owner Brank. So I can actually go there. And this is the owner. And then I can go in hot code replace. And you'll see at the bottom there, one change class is loaded. Now, the next time I do this, and notice I haven't restarted anything. And I can go in there, find owners, and I can find owners. Let's go in for Rory and find owners. And then now it's like, this is the owner. So this is a great inner loop that I've just created. I can debug and I can hot code replace. I'm going to stop that here. Now I'm actually going to build my Docker file and deploy it to container apps. So I've got a Docker file here. And in that Docker file, let's go find it. In that Docker file, all I've done really is I've got the Marina from JDK. I've got the port 8080. I've got my jar file there. And then I copy my jar file, and then I make sure that it is cloud native. So I say use 75% of the Docker file. And then I can just right click on that Docker file, and I can go build image. And it'll build the image locally in my Codespace instance. And this is the same image I'm going to push to my container app. You see there, it's going to build it. And I am connected to, I think, Western Europe this is in. And it should take a few seconds to actually build. And then you can see the copying. It's got the target file there. Export the layers. There we go. And now if I go into my Docker instance here, there's Docker. There's my images here. And I can just right click on that image there, and I can go run interactively. Now it's going to run Docker locally in Codespaces. Now I can actually debug my Docker instance. And this should be very similar. There it is, to the experience that I'm going to see that when I go into my container apps, when I push my container apps. So it's open in the browser here. And now I'm going to see, there's my container that I'm running in there. Now I'm in GitHub Codespaces. I'm in a Docker instance, debugging off there, and I can find the owners and I can go through, and that's my inner loop. Now, once I'm happy with that, I can stop that Docker instance there. I can go stop. I can make a change to that Docker file, and then I can just push that change. So let's go for J for K, and then I can go and commit that file, and I can sync the changes. Now, my changes are going to be in sync, but Rory, you didn't show me how to do that GitHub action. Now, if I've got into Bash here, and if I go AZ container apps GitHub, and then I go enter. Oh wait, that's not that's not correct. And I want to go AZ container apps, GitHub action add. So that's what it is here. So I followed this, and you can follow this also. And GitHub actions add. And what you do is you add all of these here and there, and then it will just create. It will link into your GitHub action. You need to give it a service principal, and you can follow all of the processes in there. But you need to give it, and then it will give you and create. And while it's running in the background, it'll create a GitHub action for you. That does everything for you. I know the first time I did this for Microsoft Build in front of quite a big audience though. And the GitHub action goes in and builds the container apps. It creates a service principal for you. You can see here. It goes in and logs, it creates your Maven. So it's going to run my playwright test. It's going to package my file there. It's going to build and push my container app to my container registry that it's going to create for me. And then it's going to go in and deploy my container app. Now, this is pretty nifty, and this is pretty cool. What happens if I don't have a existing kind of a flow? You can also go container app up. So if I go AZ container app, and there's another one here. Let me try to find it. I don't know if it is here, but it's still in beta. But you can actually go GitHub container app action, app. Let's go find it. I really want to show you this. And I want to go app. And that actually goes into your GitHub tool. And if you go to GitHub action there, it'll go in and show you it. And that's yeah, so that's a little bit, there we go, GitHub container app up. It's a little bit of a secret that's still in beta. So once this is running here, now we can go into our project here. This is the pet clinic application. You can see that I forked it off there. And now it should actually be running my actions. So if I go into my actions, there's my actions. And I was running CodeQL. So it's actually checking that, that I'm not entering into any critical vulnerabilities. And I can go into now my application. It's already built it. It ran the playwright test end to end there. It set up the Docker. It created the image, that image file that we used there, and now it's deploying it to the container app. We can go there and it's deploying to the container app. And now let's go into my Azure portal here. So let's go portal. So let's go into portal. Now I want to see the revision. Now I want to make sure that the revision is going to be pushed right now. So live on air, I want to make sure that it's being pushed. So I go into container apps here. Now, I've created the environment before that, but you can actually go in and get it to create the container app. And there's my Spring Pet Clinic application there. Got quite a few nice little demos that I've been testing here and there. And the nice thing about this container app is that I've set it to 0 scale, meaning that in no time it's costing me money until the first time I hit it. And so it's scaled to 0, they call it. So let's go into revision management here. Let's wait for that to finish there. Okay, so it's finished there. Now I should actually see under revision management, we just pushed live on air, a revision management. There we go. Live on air, it's there. So you can actually see, and it's provisioned. So I can go back into my overview. Now I should be able to click it, but it will take a few seconds to actually start up. Because if I look at that URL here, and I click it, now watch, it's going to take a few seconds. If I go back into my Pet Clinic application, I've set it to scale on 0, meaning that it's not costing me anything. So if I go there, it's actually got a scale on 0 to 10. And I can actually go in there and set it and scale it that if it hits a high HTTP traffic, then it will actually scale up to more container instances. So here it is. I can find the owners here. And also it's linked into my Azure monitor live on air, which is never an easy thing. I've got all of the applications there. So what happens if I actually want to go in and add a label or staging or anything? I can just go into here into my revision management. Let's go into revision management. And I can just add staging and to a label though. So right now, if I look at that, it says there, choose revision mode. It says single. I can add multiple, so I can just go apply. And then under multiply, it'll give me the option to add labels. And then I can go into the label there and go, listen, I want to snapshot this and I want to go into staging environment now. And then I can do traffic shaping. So as it's adding there, you'll see there, I can actually do traffic shaping. So successfully updated revisions. And then you see there, and then I can go staging, RPZA. Oh, I need to do lowercase. staging, RPZA, and I can do traffic shaping there, 80%, and then save that. Oh, I need to do 100%. I need to create another one. I forgot about that. And then I can just add another one there. And then I can go in and do blue-green deployment with that and then make it inactive. And I can even go in and show you want to see how many inactive sessions I've got there. I can just go in and show inactive sessions there. Yeah, so there's quite a lot of inactive sessions that I've done there, and you can keep that revision management there. If you want to see the containers that I'm actually using, you'll see that the container that I've pushed there in the container registry is all there. You can set up environment variables there, and that's the container registry. And this was created with that AZ container apps GitHub actions. There's the successfully created revision, and that's the demo I wanted to show you today. So let's go back into the PowerPoint. Now I've got a Dapper workshop that I want to show you. And I did mention Dapper there. So I've got an incredible Dapper workshop. So this is the Dutch traffic finding system. So you enter a car there and it will actually go in and alert another service there and tell you if you under 10 kilometers, how fast that car has gone. And you can get a nice view for that. And it uses a simulation service to go and create traffic, and then it will go in traffic, publish it to a Kafka queue, and then go into a fine collection service and vehicle registration service, all the time going into open telemetry collector. Let's go see this live on air, and I'll show you how this works. Let's go back there, and let's go into, we want to go into, no. Dapper, there we go. And it's, yeah, so I had it running right here, but this is the traffic controller, and it's running as we speak, and it's using Dapper to say all of those services, where do they sit? And if I go into the farm here, you can see there, it's actually going, and this is the, let's go back into that. This is the registration entry of vehicle with a license number. And then as it's going there, it's going, whoa. You under the 10 kilometers, you entered at a certain time, you exit at a certain time, you've got a violation. It picks up the pub sub there through Kafka. I'm running Kafka on Docker. Now, the novelty of this workshop runs on Azure Kubernetes services, and you can also get a similar version for that for container apps. So you can start with that. Let's go back to there. So the Java workshop, aka.ms, and this is the workshop that I paired with our field team to go in and publish it. We also have a cloud native workshop. You like Quarkus with subatomic startup times though. So you could, there is a nice little demo that I have for you. So aka.ms caps workshop. So this is a bit of a meaty example of a container app workshop that runs on container apps, but runs Quarkus. And here Yoda is fighting Scream, and you can actually get it to fight them. If you don't want to spend a meaty time there, I do have an option for a single deploy. So it is a single deploy, aka.ms Quarkus superheroes. Let's go look at this live on air there, because I really do want to show you this here. So UI superheroes here, and let's go into the actual instance here. I want to go into container apps and then UI superheroes. And this is speaking to a REST service for a fight service and a villain service. And then they all use microservices to go in and create a nice little gamified version of this here. Let's go in this, and they all scale to 0. So they'll take a few seconds to actually start up there, and you can actually get started with it there. So here's the superhero service here. Let's see who we get. Humongous, I don't even know how to pronounce that. And also Timoko Toja. Okay, let's see fight who wins here, and they win there. And this is running in Kafka in the background to actually get through all of that though. And then, yeah, so that's everything I wanted to show to you today. Thank you, Caesar, and the great team at J4K. If you want to access that workshop, you can snapshot it here. So I want to take a few questions here. I've shown you a lot today, and it's only been 30 minutes. So I want to take a few questions. Else, we can actually just go back to the incredible lineup of other speakers that we have. So Caesar, tell me, do we have 5 more minutes? Else, I can go back into some of the demos there, and we can go look at some of those incredible services that are demoed quickly to you. Okay, let's go back there. I want to show you the traffic fine system, and this is great here. So in here, we have a simulation service. So let me show you what that simulation service actually does. And in the simulation service actually creates traffic, so cars. So it will go in there and it'll create a car, and the car will start a journey. And the minute that it actually goes into a car, you can see their entry cam and exit cam, and it'll go into your traffic control system. Now, the same time, it's using Dapper to publish to a Kafka queue on running local Docker instance there. And then Dapper then is going to subscribe to a fine collection service. Now, the novelty also is that you've got open telemetry, and open telemetry is becoming really big lately. I know that a lot of services are really pushing hard for integration with open telemetry. Let's go see exactly how you can get started with that. So let's go click on the Dapper Java workshop. So let me click on that. And let's open it up into a browser here. Let's see exactly how you can get started with this. So let's open there. So this is the Dapper Java workshop. And in here, you'll see here that there is the architecture and the diagrams and end-to-end state. And you need to start off with, I love how they say Eclipse IDE, but I'm a VS Code boy, and then Docker for desktop. And you need the Dapper CLI, and you can need to install Dapper locally. So Dapper actually runs it as like a command line and uses Docker to actually run its sidecar. You need Java 16 or above and Maven, and then Apache Kafka, or I use Docker instance. So you do Docker compose up, and then you go in through to all of the different port services. So let's go in and see what we can actually get started. So I'm going to stop the, let's go into the simulation service here, and I'm going to go stop that. Stop. Okay, so that is the wrong service here. That's one of the actual Dapper components here. There we go. There's my simulation service. So the simulation service here is simulated entry of a vehicle and then exit of a vehicle. And if we go into the simulation service here, you'll see here that the GitHub action here is simulation, and it's pretty simple. We're going to run through here, and it's a component, and it's just going to simulate traffic here, and it's going to run through, and you can actually set multiple lanes. Now, the Dapper logic that is stored here, let's go into here. So we've got Dapper here, and we've got components, pub sub, and service bus. And if I go into the components here, there's the Kafka pub sub. Now, it's fascinating here because you can actually take this in this workshop and replace it with RabbitMQ, because it's a Dapper component. You only ever need to actually tell it that this is a Dapper component, and you can rip out that entire Kafka component there, pub/sub Kafka, and put in RabbitMQ. And that's the real novelty of Dapper with container apps, that if you ever want to take out a component, let's just say you want to use a different state store, Redis, instead of Cosmos DB, you can actually just rip that out. And as long as it conforms to Dapper, it's like a building block, a component, and you just plug it in there. So over here, we've got our metadata, our brokers, our MAC message type, a retry instrument, our disabled TLS, all of these here. But then right there, I've got a Kafka pub/sub, I've got RabbitMQ pub/sub, and I can just rip it out and then go straight into that. And that's the novelty of container apps with this technology. And it allows you to also run, remember, container apps is Kubernetes. So that's everything I wanted to show you today. Yeah, so thanks so much. And we can continue to demo if we wanted to. Else, I'm going to go back onto Hoover, the incredible app Hoover, and I'm going to take some of your questions there today. Thanks, everyone, and follow me on Twitter. And here's my tweeters. And let's go back into the tweeters here. Here's my tweeters, and here's the final little link there. So follow me on Twitter and on @Rory Preddy, and I'll see you all on Hoover. Please join the Microsoft stand. We have swag, we have T-shirts, and we have a lot of interesting people coming into there. Thanks, everyone. Cheers, everyone.